What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Azure Functions live webcast. I am Jeff Holland. Oh, and I still have the chat open. Luckily, we didn't have anything incriminating there except for the link to get the chat. I'll fix that. Thank you all so much for joining. I am Jeff Holland. I am joined today by two magnificent guests, both new to the webcast. So both new faces that you might not have met before. Some maybe you already know of, some maybe you don't. I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe we will start with you, Marie. Thank you for joining. Do you just want to give a quick intro?
Hello, everyone. I'm Marie. I'm a dev on the Azure Functions team, the Functions team. And I mainly work with Node.js, so JavaScript, TypeScript.
You paused a bit after you said on the Functions team, where you were trying to figure out if that was still the team or if there was a better name.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I feel like usually it's like the Microsoft Azure Functions team, but I figured that everyone.
Oh, sure. Yes. We're not too polished here today. So thank you, Maria, for joining us. It's always good when we get a dev to join as well. So that way, when folks start rambling off really technical questions, that I can just more or less ask Maria to answer them. So good luck. Apeksha, what about you?
Hey everyone, I am a relatively new PM to Functions. I joined a couple months ago and I am PMing in the monitoring for functions space and Java functions. And I also work with our client tooling like Portal and Azure CLI.
Yep. A lot of good stuff. So thrilled to have Apeksha and Marie with us. If this is your first time joining the webcast, this is just our chance to share what's new, share what's coming. In this month, if you're not already aware, is Serverless September. So there's actually been a ton of community-produced content, and we have a massive slide just recognizing a handful of that content. So this gives us a chance to recognize the community as well, plug those folks, and we even have some Ignite-related announcements, some stuff that you may heard of yesterday, maybe you didn't, some very exciting features in a demo that Marie's got as well to showcase them. So if you didn't already notice, there is chat happening, and we are fancy now. We're trying out a few new things. Oh, for one, okay, this one's great. Are you ready? So when I want to show the PowerPoint, look at that right there. Did you see what just happened? So shout out to Eric on the community Discord server who posted in the early September this tool that will automatically give you these transition effects. And I immediately downloaded them and was like, we need to up the game for our webcast. So we will be transitioning.
How did you play with that when you first found it?
Yeah, I immediately just spent about 30 minutes messing with that transition. Exactly. Thank you, Josh, for saying nice transition. And yes, Eric, I completely agree. Okay, so we will jump into it because I do want to make sure we have plenty of time for questions, and I already see a bunch of them coming in. So we will. Sorry, I don't know if everyone saw that transition right there. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to smash that like. And again, I'm not even going to be shameless about this. I did notice we had 7 likes before we even started broadcasting today. Great work, team. Keep up the good work. And you're more than welcome to dislike the video as well, but my only request is you have to directly message me and tell me why you are disliking this video. I need the feedback to get better. Okay.
Got to talk to Jeff first.
Yeah. Oh, and I don't know, Marie or Apeksha, if this is our first webcast since probably the largest functions controversy that we have had to date. That is already coming up in chat that these transitions are reminding folks about, which is the ASCII art in the core tools. Apeksha, have you seen any of this floating around? I know you work some with the core tools. I think Anthony had to deal with the brunt of this.
I think Anthony dealt with most of it. I had heard it in passing, and I was wondering about that too. It sounded pretty interesting.
Marie, I saw when I was investigating this, I saw you on the issue, and you spoke up, and you said,
yeah,
Team ASCII art. So if you're not aware, whenever you start up the Functions core tools, previously you would see some incredible Functions ASCII art that Mark, who I do see on the chat, has made into SVG. Anyone can go grab on GitHub. in an effort to simplify and clean up the experience, we removed a bunch of the noisy logs, and we also got rid of the ASCII art as well. You can bring it back if you tell it to be verbose. Anthony heard enough noise that he forked the CLI and created a version that gives the ASCII art just so people would start DMing him. But yes. and yeah, I
like the ASCII art, like the lightning bolt and everything. Very good.
It was a big one, yeah. And Josh did tip me off on Twitter, and I take partial blame because I kind of threw a hissy fit on Twitter for a bit. But anyway.
Oh, we've got a hashtag Team ASCII art.
There's Apeksha, just go into Twitter right now and type that in, and there is quite. We'd all changed our profile pictures for a few hours. It was probably a much bigger deal than it needed to be. Okay, so here's our webcast. We're going to have fun today. Let's start with what is new. A lot of this is Ignite related, not exclusively. Let's start. Blazor support for static web apps. This is probably the announcement I've seen the most noise about. We've talked about static web apps before. I believe we've demoed it. The big news here is that we now have first-class tooling support so that if you want to create a Blazor-based front end, that you can now do that. In fact, I just saw this morning that the one and only Scott Hanselman posted on his blog about this scenario and linked to, there's a Learn tutorial, there's a bunch of other stuff. So this is great, especially for you folks who love .NET and you don't want to use that terrible, terrible language of JavaScript.
Whoa. Fighting words.
Marie is our resident JavaScript and TypeScript specialist. So I had to throw a little bit of shade. But yes, that's a big one. And related to it, which I'll jump through quickly, is regardless of the language you use for your front end. So I've been partial to Vue lately, whether it's Vue, React, Angular, one of the like Gatsby static web app generators, or Blazor. Is part of static web apps, you can call serverless functions behind the scenes that are just like integrated in that project. Those used to only let you integrate JavaScript functions directly, but that restriction is now lifted. You can include .NET or Python code, and we will go and spin that up. So again, you can pair .NET backend API with a JavaScript front end. Doesn't have to be, one language across the stack. So if you do want to use a little bit of Vue in the front and Python party in the back, it's all cool. So any other thoughts on this one before we jump to maybe what is, I think, the what's the word, like the shadow, the sneaker, the silent announcement that I think is very exciting, but maybe didn't get the noise that it deserves just yet until Marie blows our mind. Marie, what is the Azure connectors for functions private preview?
Yeah, awesome. So this is the feature that I'm going to be demoing, but it's basically, for those of you who are already familiar with Logic Apps and Power Apps connectors, we're trying to bring that functionality and all of like the super easy authentication to different services that you get from that over to code. So I'll leave it at that for now because I have like a long slide deck. But yeah.
Great. Awesome. Great teaser. This is a very exciting one. I had the chance to play with it a bit last week, and I'm stoked, especially coming from the Logic Apps team before I was on Functions. And finally, this one's more minor, but I did want to highlight, we have been making a bunch of improvements to Service Bus, specifically on some of these corner cases we started to see at high scale. There was a behavior that maybe you ran into it, maybe you didn't, where if we were scaling down, there was a behavior in the Service Bus SDK where as we were scaling it down, we could continue to dequeue messages and execute your function. And so oftentimes those would just get retried because it's like, look, I'm getting shut down right now. So Sid on our team has been spending a few weeks doing this and other improvements to Service Bus so that now we do a lot better job of draining, discontinuing, pulling new messages, a much more graceful scale experience specifically for Service Bus right now. So with that, Maria, you already teased this pretty well. But do you want to go ahead and go deeper into the Azure connector stuff, show some of the slides you have, and blow our minds with a demo? And I'll grab some of these questions as you do that.
Here we go. Okay. All right. Do you guys see that?
We see it. Why are service integrations still so hard?
Perfect. So before jumping into Azure API connections, I wanted to start off by walking you all through the state of the world today around service integrations and why we're trying to make a change. So a few weeks ago, I was trying to make an Azure function to help notify about failing tests and builds, and I wanted to post a notification to teams to alert us only if there was a trend in failures in our Azure DevOps build. So I wasted a lot of hours reading through documentation, incrementally testing, before I actually decided that it wasn't worth my time. And this was one of the many moments where I really wished I could use API connectors, which are already available, like I said, for Power Apps and Logic Apps directly in my code. And if you haven't seen Logic Apps before, where did my mouse go? Here we go. All right. So if you haven't seen Logic Apps before, in Logic Apps, you can connect to services with the click of a button with this friendly UI, and it takes care of the trickiest parts of service integration, like authentication. So what went wrong when I tried to connect to different services through my code? I thought adding even just one new service to my function app would be simple, but I didn't even get it working, and I ended up wasting a lot of time trying to figure it out. That wasted time represents one of the barriers to integrating services to apps. If I haven't tried integrating with that service before, I don't have a good sense of how much I have to invest before I get it working. There are a lot of unknowns going in, especially for a project like mine, where I was just trying to make a quick improvement. A good portion of time spent comes from understanding what each unique service has to offer. So is there an SDK available written in your preferred language? If an SDK isn't available, are there public REST APIs? How good is their documentation? Are there samples you can follow? And sometimes you get lucky and a service has an intuitive SDK with great documentation that's easy to find and navigate, but I definitely wouldn't say that's the norm. Once documentation is found, and you know what needs to be done, figuring out authentication and doing it right is typically one of the hardest parts. So here's an example of a getting started page I found using the Outlook REST APIs. And the guidance here is, in order to call the Mail API, the app requires an access token from the Microsoft Identity Platform. Use one of the supported OAuth 2.0 flows to obtain an access token. So I was like, okay, cool, follow the link. And when I click that, I'm brought to this page that starts with teaching me the basics of OAuth 2.0 and OpenID Connect. And so although this information is really important, it's going to take me a while to read through this, especially if I'm not familiar with many of these concepts. I tried to see if the experience was better with the Gmail SDK, and steps 1 and 2 are pretty slick. Step 1 lets me create an OAuth app without leaving the page and without really having to understand what's going under the hood. Things are looking good until I hit step 3, which brings me to 100 plus lines of quick start code. And by the way, all of this code is just to authorize to use the Google APIs. And I just wanted to send an email, and I'm still many steps away from being able to start. The next steps here are unclear, and the rest of the documentation mostly contains non-language specific guidance, and these docs still rely on prior knowledge. So if you made it to that point where you're making authenticated calls, you might be in trouble again if you don't have an SDK to use. Documentation can be limited on the expected request payload and the shape of the response. So trying to get the request right and correctly and parsing the response can be a big roadblock. So what can be done about all of these issues? It shouldn't be a surprise to you that I'm going to tell you that API Connections solves all of those problems that we just went through. With Azure API Connections, we're bringing the standardized model for connecting to services from connectors with the power of code. So switching over to a quick demo. Do y'all see this demo, by the way?
Yes, we can. We see VS Code.
Okay. Amazing.
And
okay.
in that beautiful language of JavaScript.
Exactly. Yeah. So TypeScript is my favorite. It's so good. And so this is a durable orchestrator. And so if you aren't already familiar with durable functions, it basically lets me orchestrate calling different functions. And so the scenario that I'm trying to solve here is to give me a reminder 10 hours before my earliest meeting. And so I was thinking about this, like, especially in COVID times, it can be really easy to just like keep on working through the night. And then also sometimes I'll get scheduled for early morning meetings. So this app is here to kind of like remind me every night on Teams. If I'm still there on Teams, then it'll send me a notification 10 hours before my earliest event, just telling me to go to bed. So the way this durable orchestrator can be read is here I am using some durable concepts to call one of my other functions, which is finding the earliest meetings. So this page right now is basically just like durable concepts. And then each of the functions that I'm calling have like the API connections inside of them. And then again, another durable concept, I'm creating a timer. It's going to delay me. And after I get the event, I'm going to subtract 10 hours. And this is using the moment.js library. And then it's going to notify me. Just for the sake of this demo too, I've also have an escape route where I can just like fire it immediately so that you guys can see that it's working. Going over to our first function that we're calling, the find earliest meeting. Okay, so this is the new and exciting bit of it. Here I am creating an Office 365 Outlook connector with this connection string that I pass in. And right now I'm just going to kind of like run through this demo, and then we're actually going to try to code a function using these connectors too, so you can kind of see that end-to-end flow. But basically when I get this Outlook client, Outlook dot, and then I get all of these different methods, let's see, context table, and all of these different actions that I can do with Outlook. So walking through the code here, I am iterating through all of my calendars to get my calendar. And then after that, I'm finding all of the events inside of my calendar. And then I'm filtering those based off of what my response type is. So am I organizer, am I accepted? And again, the cool thing too about like using TypeScript with this is event response, event.response type. And I get some IntelliSense on this too. And so if I tried to change this to be like organizer and I misspell it, it's also going to catch that. Okay, so this function gets my, my events from Outlook, and then this function uses Teams to notify me in a channel that I created. So let's get this up and running. And so I just want to kind of show you like this working. And then again, we're going to go through a quick bit of coding. I know I've never done any live coding, but yeah, Jeff, I'm actually going to put you on blast a little bit. So there was, I think like one of my first impressions of Jeff was, it was like an Ignite or something demo, and he was doing it live. And he was basically saying that like, unless a demo can fail, like he just like, it doesn't, you know, like get him excited anymore. And I was just like, my God, what a madman.
I'm an adrenaline junkie for those bugs.
Steph enjoys a little chaos.
I do. And I will say, actually, I because this is a topic, as this is building, as you run this test, you had some beautiful ASCII art. Is this... Oh no! And it looks like Mari might get the adrenaline rush too. How did the ASCII art come through? Did you modify your startup script, or have you just refused to update your core tools in solidarity?
I have refused to update my core tools. I'll get there. And that's not good practice. I'm sorry.
It's okay. There's the stages of grief. There's the stages of grief, and this is just one of those.
Okay, here we go. Hoping that.
I see.
Wow, this is terrifying, Jeff. Why?
Oh, no,
Why?
I see executing.
Okay, here we go. So it's finding the meetings, and it gave me. Oh shoot! Connection string is missing. Okay, we're gonna quickly fix that.
Do you want me to move off your camera? Are we gonna show a secret here?
It's actually okay because it's all done through managed identity.
Oh, look at that!
Yeah, so it looks like I accidentally deleted the Teams connection. So I'll go ahead and show you a little bit earlier than I was hoping to. But basically, as part of this work, we're also shipping or sorry, private preview right now, but we're also creating an API connections VS Code extension. So in here, just like you can create your functions, you can create a new resource. So I'm going to create a Teams connector, Teams demo connector. And then the nice part too is how I was mentioning that like authentication is usually the really tricky part. Here it is asking me to go to this page. And when I do, oops. Oh no. Okay, let's try that again. Teams demo connector, authorize, opening it up. Actually, yeah, Jeff, do you mind closing up for a second?
Yep, you're fine. We're going back to our, and oh, wait, hold on. I need to just say full me. So everyone gets to stare just at me and you tell me when we can show them. But as you set that up, I'll just call out, like, as you work this out, the response on chat throughout this demo has been really positive. Like just a few of the call outs here. Alex called out like this problem that you're talking about. This is the story of his dev life. And same with Freak Willem 09 said like, I love the story. TOK mentioned alerting on Teams is something that has shot to the top of our agenda. So this is super useful. There's a question here I'll save to the end. And then Josh mentioned as well, like, I can't say how excited I am for these. It unlocks so many use cases. So I think the story is definitely resonating. And that's why sleeper announcement is what I was going for.
Okay, if you can
go back to the screen. Yeah. Look at how professional we are here. All right.
Thanks so much. Sorry about that, y'all. All right, so yeah, I clicked that link, and then now I'm actually already logged in on this window, so it just brings me this, and it asks me to allow access. So I'm going back to VS Code, and if I refresh this list, boom, connected, generate connection string. My managed identity connection string that doesn't contain secrets. And then I'm going to add that Teams connection. Yeah, I think I was trying to clean up this demo last minute.
Sure, makes sense. No, this actually worked. It almost looks as if you scripted this entire process because you have logically just showcased a bunch more features.
Love it. Okay, here we go. So Teams connection. It already got my Outlook events, but
and this is something I don't know if you have all the details for this, but you're using managed identity, but you're also running this all locally, which is something that I know for other functions features that's tricky. Do you know, was there like extra work here to make sure that this continues to work even when doing the local debug experience that you're showing?
Yeah, so far right now we need to do an AZ login. That's a super good call out. And so I have like the AZ PowerShell. Oh gosh. Anyways, so I have the AZ PowerShell installed and then logged in. There's actually a bug where it should be able to just take my logged in credentials from this VS Code extension itself. But we're in private preview. We're still trying to figure that out. Yeah, if this doesn't work, I'm actually just going to switch over to another demo, which also shows posting to Teams, because I think my last minute changes were not a good idea.
That's okay. Honestly. And this is the other thing when I live dangerously on the edge. I think everybody in the chat completely trust that this demo works and that you're not trying to pull a fast one on us. So don't stress too much about the hiccups.
I shoot you all. Okay.
This is in private preview because we've actually never gotten this to successfully run.
Lies and slander. Okay. So for the other demo, what I want to show y'all is kind of the power of combining code with these connections, which again, like Logic Apps is also an amazing product and it can do a lot of things. But as a developer, I often prefer to work in code. And then there are all these like libraries and stuff that just make it easier for me to be in code. One super important library here is the meme maker. And an example of when I run that, it's going to give me something like this. So I see memes, and that comes from here and here. So Apeksha and Jeff, I prepped you a little bit for this, but the question is, can you tell me something that you swear by that others may find a little strange? So an example is I had a friend in middle school, but I haven't talked to her in a while, but basically she swore that chocolate milk tastes better when you drink it from a spoon. And so something like that.
Um, to go off of that, I only drink hot milk. Like in America, people only drink cold milk. Like in schools, you get cold milk, things like that. But in like India, we always had to like boil the milk before it was like safe to drink. So all kids just drink like a hot cup of like milk. And every time I tell my American friends this, they're so grossed out.
Yes. Once you are older than 1 year old, any warm milk I cannot cope with.
Oh, and the other one I thought of because you prepped me is
Yeah.
I actually once a week put egg in my hair because it makes it a lot
Whoa.
shinier and
Whoa.
thicker. Like you just kind of like crack an egg, mix it, and then just leave it on for 20 minutes, wash it out. Not with too hot water because it'll start like
This is a pro tip. We need to switch right now over to like a Twitch stream of like life hacks. This is quite impressive, Apeksha. I will say this too. Every time I've been in a meeting with Apeksha and there's a point in the meeting that's like share something about yourself, she always caveats it a bit with like, I don't really have much. And then she just drops bits of wisdom like that. And I'm just like, what in the world?
Love it.
Because I always like, you know what, like I said earlier, like when people ask you, like, what's your favorite movie? And all of a sudden you've forgotten every movie you've ever seen. You're like, I've never seen movies before. And then as the conversation goes on, you're like, oh, yeah.
Man, I'm glad I tipped you. That's a great tip. Okay, so we now have a beautiful meme, and I want to share it on Teams now. So I'm going to create a Microsoft Teams connector, going through that same flow to create Microsoft Teams demo connector. And then same flow of authentication.
Do I need to jump off or are we good this time? Do you know?
Yeah, I think we're good this time.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
You don't see it happening, but I just allowed access.
Great.
Teams demo connector, generate connection string, and whoops, I already had that. That's why I deleted it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I'm going to reference it from here. And const Teams client. Okay. So from here to what I can do is Teams client dot, and I'm going to get all my teams. The thing that I really want to do is post a message to a channel, but here I need a group ID and channel ID. So I'm also going to use the Teams client to get all my teams, and then iterate through those responses for my team that is called Marie's team.
The IntelliSense here in autocomplete is so slick. That's super cool.
Yeah, and I would say that's like one of the most helpful bits too of kind of when I talked about we don't need documentation because it's kind of baked in. That IntelliSense is where that comes from. So I'm going to do the same thing for getting channel by doing my team.id, and I'm filtering by channel this time, channel and reminders. So that's just the name of the channel that I already created. Perfect. And now I can do team.id and channel.id to call this. For the body here, again, it has IntelliSense. Let's see, what were some of the properties I need? Body. So the body is going to be the same here. And then I'm also missing type, I think. Oh, whoops, sorry, body is, there we go, content and content type. with HTML. Okay, so if we'll see. I haven't had.
This is the most hypnotizing 10 minutes. I feel like such a bad coder right now.
You did that so fast. It's so nice to watch.
Thanks, y'all. Okay, so rapid fire development. Let's see if this works.
Oh, the moment of truth.
Demo Funk. Oh, let's see. I forgot to build it. npm start.
And then while that's building, a question from Jan in the chat. Will this also work with C# functions? Like right now you're showing TypeScript.
Yeah. This will also work with C#. Unfortunately, we don't have quite like Python or some of the other languages working yet.
And I imagine a lot of the work there is generating all of those rich SDKs.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, it looks good.
So here we go.
Wow.
So if we go to Teams right now.
Wow.
There we have it.
You put me to shame.
I feel so honored.
There is wild applause in the chat right now. That was a journey. That was fantastic, Marie.
Thanks for staying with me, y'all. Thanks for believing.
That was awesome. That was very, very cool. And honestly, the hiccups allowed you to go through the VS Code extension to show the debug experience. Like that was a great starter course. And I'm sure as I kind of jump over to this slide for a second, just so folks see, I'm sure one of the biggest question is, how do I get access to this URL, ak.ms/API-con preview, private preview, but we really want to get folks testing this out. That's awesome. Maria, anything else you want to add here on the Azure Connector stuff?
Still in private preview. So please request access and please give us lots of feedback too on like things that you like, things that you didn't like. So yeah, we're excited about the project.
That was great. And I will ask one of the other questions from Jan as well, which was, do we get access to all of the connectors available in Logic Apps or Flow?
Good question. So right now for private preview, we only have like integration with Microsoft services. And so we're looking to expand that like as far as possible. One goal we have in mind too is like custom connectors, because I think that's a cool story where a company can come up with these custom connectors that like their low-code developers use for Power Apps, Logic Apps, and then their more like codeful developers can still, maybe make a Azure function that's their backend API, and now everybody can use that as an SDK or in their low-code solutions.
Great.
So that's kind of where we're reaching towards, but we're not there yet.
And then Darren has a question just to clarify. I know you showed this in the demo, but just to wrap it up, he's like, do I have to have a Logic app before I do this? Like with all the connections, like how do I get those connections set up?
Yeah, so just like I showed in the demo, the VS Code extension right now is our kind of like gateway into creating connections. And so there's a create flow within that VS Code extension itself. And those are not like, you don't need to make a Logic app first.
Great. That's perfect. Yeah, we let you go straight to that connection resource that the Logic app uses. And the only other thing I'll mention here too, because we do love our Logic app friends, I think Marie's stories were perfect examples of like, look, I need to make a call to email or make a call to Teams. I don't think I would expect folks to like take a 20-step Logic app and be like, now I'm going to do all this in functions.
Yeah, totally.
So, use the right tool for the right job here. But I know there's a ton of situations where I'm doing something like sending an email or sending a text where just using these out-of-the-box connectors with that IntelliSense is huge. So phenomenal job, Marie. I'm really glad we had you. That was awesome. That was great. Okay, now we get on to back to the PowerPoint, because we have a wall of community highlights. It is Serverless September. If you want to link to any of these posts, we're going to give you a quick scan over all of these. But if you want links to any of these, that link at the top, aka.ms/function/links, will give you the actual hyperlink to all of this amazing content and all of these folks that I want to flag. The other thing I'll mention too, if you go to that links page, I link to the Twitter account or GitHub account of each of these authors and content creators. So give them a follow, give them a like, whatever else. We all love that beautiful following and liking stuff. But maybe Apeksha, I know that you were looking through some of these blogs at the top. Are there any you want to call out is that you thought were interesting or worth noting for folks who are watching?
Yeah, I really like the 5 reasons to go serverless with Azure by Ajiri, because I'm actually like new to serverless as a whole. When I joined a couple months ago is the first time I really had exposure to all of this, coming from a team that dealt with completely different things. And it wasn't another Azure team like a lot of the other PMs that come through. And like these types of blogs like really help me understand like what really is the purpose for what we do. Why would you use Azure, or why would you use serverless to begin with? And then if you do use it, why would you go with Azure Functions over anything else? And it gives you like several great reasons for regarding accessibility in terms of like having so many options to choose, the way Functions connects with other products in that way, and the diversity in languages that are available, that type of thing. And then it goes on to talk about AI compatibility, pricing, all the good stuff. And then the other one I really liked was building serverless APIs using Azure Function and Azure SQL. That one is by Ashirvad. And he goes through like, first he kind of defines some of the key words that you might need to know, which is great. Again, for me as a person who's new and ends up spending way too much time looking up 5 words in one paragraph. And then they start with, they use Visual Studio to create a new project and show you like quick step-by-step on how to do that. Then they go on to show you like the boilerplate of how to set up a serverless API with Azure SQL. So like they show you how to connect to SQL and do all the works. And I really like that one too.
That's awesome. Great. And I'll just call out a few of the other ones as well that I saw. They're kind of pairings, actually. So Joseph and Alexander both wrote blog posts solving the same thing, but doing it 2 different ways. And I actually they both kind of call out different methods. The first one, Joseph, is the using Azure Key Vault and like the app settings integration to pull in Key Vault secrets as like a trigger connection string or as a secure connection string. And Alexander writes, solving the similar scenario, but in this case, he actually uses the new functions configuration stuff with .NET and does it all through configuration and walks through some of the ways you can use configuration to pull in secrets as well. So 2 different approaches to solving the same problem, both really great. Similarly, kind of a nice pairing. These both are actually YouTube videos. Gwyneth, who we have highlighted on the webcast before, who creates amazing content. You should definitely check out this link to her channel that she's consistently pushing out some really high quality content. But she has a post around static web apps and a great intro and overview of static web apps. I think she was even tweeting with the Blazor announcement. She can go update some of it. But she goes through building a static web app that does weather information. Josh also has a great intro to static web apps with an amazing intro animation. Actually, both of these had great intro animations, which I appreciate now. But this one goes through building a static web app. I know, Josh, you talk about building your photo blog on this. I think you walked through building a blog on this as potentially the beginning of a series. So really great. And then kind of just to wrap it up, Rohan has a good one around authorization, which is a very common ask, especially in the serverless API space. Rishab had a fun blog post where he creates, if you curl like his name .dev, it will return back his resume in like pretty JSON. And he spun this up really quickly with an Azure function. It's just a cool way to differentiate and have a fun little twist on a resume. So definitely worth checking out. Then finally, 2 folks, both of these are actually at Microsoft, but still creating great content. Aaron, who's a cloud advocate, wrote a great series around GraphQL. And then Linda, who is one of the coolest titles we have at Microsoft, a global black belt. Linda wrote a post around understanding what portable functions means, like the fact that functions can run everywhere. How should I think about that? What can I do with it? So a great guide there as you're ramping up on this stuff. So a ton of great links and content. Thank you all very much for the mountain of content as part of this Serverless September and beyond. If we ever miss something you would like to see plugged, just hit us up on Twitter at Azure Functions or post in that community Discord channel or Reddit. Those are kind of the three places I usually go when I'm reading stuff and that the team looks at. So great. Thank you all.
I want to add that for Serverless September, people have been posting blogs Monday through Friday, every day of September. So there'll be a lot more blogs coming up as well.
Yes, and there's a blog. I should have linked to it on that links thing. I know we sent a tweet about it the other day. There's a post on dev.to that gets updated every day with the new blog post Monday through Thursday, as you mentioned. So a good thing to follow and follow along. Okay, so we're going to wrap up with another slide, and then we'll answer your questions for like the last 15 minutes. And this is what is coming. So what are some of the things that are still in the works? This one we talked about last webcast, if you saw. This is the ability to generate and stub out an Azure function backend when you have an API definition using OpenAPI. This should be shipping around the end of this month. So this is imminent. We almost shipped it as part of Ignite, but we wanted to finish publishing some of the VS Code tools and everything else. So this is coming very quickly. Unlock some cool scenarios. This is the Volcano Lightning slide tool. My most favorite feature to talk about, and also my least favorite feature to talk about because I wish it was already there. We're still working on rolling out this ability to restrict all storage for a premium function account. This should be live in a single region, probably West Europe, relatively quickly, and then rolling out the rest of the globe over the next month or two. So I'm hesitant to give more solid ETAs. This is a tricky one. This one's wrapping up work right now. There's some PRs open on GitHub if you're interested in poking around, but the ability for you to automatically retry and handle exceptions that happen when you're checkpointing on an Event Hub or a Cosmos DB stream. So if you use either of those and you're familiar with the checkpointing behavior we use, we're giving you more ability to say, hey, if something goes wrong, don't progress. I want you to retry that batch again, maybe indefinitely. So that's a great one that will help with a lot of these high-scale scenarios. One of our newer PMs, who we should have on a webcast very soon, Carrie, is doing some work to make it easier to move between consumption and premium through our tools. Apeksha, I think he was talking to you about this already. So this will be coming up in the next few weeks.
Yep. Yeah, we had a meeting about that actually this week about adding CLI support for it.
Great. Yep. So that'll be a great one. Key Vault secret rotation. This is another one that we've got the work. It's got to go in some of these global massive deployments. So it takes a little bit of time, but is a scenario we care about. This is a good one because I also saw, I think Davide in the chat asked anything new on durable entities. We do want to expose the durable entities API through to Python. And so if you want to use that entities actor-like pattern in functions, it's a, I guess I would say advanced. It doesn't have to be, but it maybe another sleeper hit in Python. So if you're not familiar with durable entities, definitely worth checking out. I think that's all. Yep, that's all I have. So a lot of good stuff coming. Okay, and then the last slide, and then we'll kind of do Q&A. This is the Create Serverless event. Maria, are you helping with a session at this event?
A little bit, yeah. I'm moderating a session with Robert Steele.
Oh, cool.
So,
great.
Yeah.
And then I will be helping. I'll be in a session with some folks from the API management team and also in a session with Linda. This is a fun event. I know you're in the throes of Ignite right now, but this is a half-day virtual event happening next week, a week from today, that's going to be live. And this is going to have a bunch of kind of like bite-sized 20-minute sections talking about building serverless APIs, building node APIs, a bit of a focus on web scenarios, honestly, which is a really interesting aspect when we survey new users, kind of like, hey, I want to do serverless with web. This is one of the top ones. So we want to give a lot of content there, talk about API management, talk about durable functions, talk about a lot of great stuff. So if you're
it's got like everything too.
It really does. Yeah. It's bite size. I think one of the things we're learning with these remote and virtual conferences is, having 90-minute sessions can be a lot. And so this is a lot of bite size. Turn it on in the background, check it out, participate, chat, everything else will be there. So yeah, I hope you can make it next week. I don't have the link here. We tweeted about it recently, so go check out twitter.com/Azure Functions. Anything else before we answer questions, folks? Did I miss something? Okay.
I'm seeing some love in the chat for the Event Hub checkpoints and like +1.
Great.
But yeah, I feel like those are the things where like, yeah, we hear that a lot. So I'm excited about it too.
I am too, yes. And we've got Pragna working on it, who is one of our phenomenal devs as well. So I'm confident that this thing's going to come out strong. Okay, did any of you grab any questions? I can start going through the chat now. I think I have some from near the beginning, but I'll pause here in case any of you grabbed a question that you want to just float to anyone here on the webcast to answer. Let me grab a few. So I have one from before. It looks like Joshua Amon actually was answering a bunch of your questions in chat around PowerShell, so maybe we'll skip that. Jay, I did copy this one. Jay asked, what about the ASCII art t-shirts for functions? Right before we went into lockdown for COVID, I got a bunch of budget for swag and ordered like 800 ASCII art t-shirts that I had ready for Build and the MVP Summit, and we were just going to hand them out like candy. And then everything went virtual, and I haven't even been back to the office. They're locked in building 40. What are we in, 41? I've even forgot the building we used to work out of. They're locked in some storage closet. They exist. They're just gathering a bit of dust in a closet. We will figure out a way to distribute those vintage shirts. I'm not going to mail them. I'm not going to mail 600 shirts. But maybe we'll do maybe we'll have to do a contest or webcast where I can mail like 3 shirts. I think I could handle 3 shirts. We'll see. Andre, apologies if I'm mispronouncing this, asked, what about .NET 5 support and functions? It's coming. I don't have an ETA. I've seen some cool demos of it. Apeksha and Mari, I don't know if you saw some of the cool demos during the intern presentations. Yeah, some exciting stuff there and some nice little candy, I guess. Like there's the, hey, get .NET 5 to work on functions. And then there's the, what if we could actually give a few cool things on top of that? But I know right now we're kind of making sure that we got that all polished. There's a lot of work, candidly, across like making sure all the tooling is updated, making sure all the platform is updated. So we're going to try to land this as close to when .NET 5 releases as we can. We'll see how close we can get on that, but it is something that we're working on. And we'll keep this folks up to date. Anyone else grab a question? I'll scroll through and see if I got any other ones. And this is your chance to chat if you have questions you want to ask before we sign off, or if we've missed something that I didn't take note of. TypeScript hypnosis. I assume that was Marie's demo.
Speaking of .NET 5 too, or of like versions, Node 14 is also becoming LTS soon. And so I think that's like less of a, like groundbreaking shifting or whatever, but we'll also have support for that around the time of LTS release. Not exactly the date, but around that time.
And then Joel did ask a question. And sorry, Apeksha, did you have one that you wanted to flag before I grab one of these ones I found?
The one you're about to say.
Oh, okay, yes. Private endpoints for functions in the consumption plan. I know we have service endpoint support in the consumption plan. Private endpoint is trickier. For those who know, the difference is a little subtle. Service endpoints is like the call has to come from a virtual network, a private network, but we manage it's still like jeff.azurefunctions.net. Like it's still my own host name. It's still more or less our IP address. We just do a check as it comes in and we're like, did this originate from this subnet? Because if not, we're just going to block it outright. That works in consumption. Private endpoint adds an additional layer where now you are in charge of the IP address and the DNS layer. And so you could legit call a function at like 10.0.1.4/API/foo. Or I guess with the right host header. I don't know if that will work in consumption plan just because I think you've got to be a bit deeper integrated with the virtual network for that whole thing to work. Like where would we grab the IP address from if you're not in that virtual network or I guess joined to it? So I think there might be some technical blockers there. If there aren't technical reasons, then I would hope we would light it up. In fact, I assume it doesn't work now. Like this is one of those things where if someone was like, oh yeah, we actually did it so it works in both places, maybe. So I think service endpoint would be the feature I would say to use, and you get a lot of the same benefits. Obviously, there's the slight difference if you really care about that IP address. But yes, that is something there. Yeah, and there was a thing around moving between consumption and premium app service. We are working to make that better and to guide you a bit more, even when moving from app services to functions. There's some settings nuances there, which I won't necessarily go into here. But yeah, part of the work that Carrie and Apeksha have been working on is making sure that that's at least surface better. And then I see Anthony's been answering a lot. Yep, Anthony's been helping a ton. Great. Okay, so I think we got most of them. Any closing thoughts from anyone on the call before we start to wrap this up and sign off?
I actually don't do the kind of stuff that Maria showed very much, and now just watching the demo made me want to try it.
You sold us, Maria. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Warms my heart.
And Gwyneth just said, did I miss the good stuff? Gwyneth, if you've just joined, I will tell you, go back in time on YouTube to like the 15-minute mark. And as soon as Maria starts her demo and presentation around Azure connectors, skip all the bullcrap at the beginning we did around Blazor. Just ignore all that and go straight to the connectors piece. And you are in for a treat. That really was. I am not kidding. That was great. Oh, and also, yeah, Linda is correct as well. We also did say nice things around your content. So you got a nice shout out during our webcast. 2 now, I guess. Marie, Apeksha, thank you all very much for joining. Thank you to all those in chat. I love doing these. I love seeing the chat messages fly through. I love doing them with our transitions that we have now, which just adds an additional flair. Appreciate it all, everyone. We'll do another one of these next month. Halloween themed, I would imagine. So I gotta need to spruce up the background a bit, because Halloween, maybe this is what I should have been adamant about.
Again.
What were you saying, Apeksha? A pumpkin?
Got lightning bolt coming out of like a pumpkin.
That's a great idea. Halloween is my favorite holiday, and I will live until my dying day standing by that. And it's not like trick-or-treating, whatever, that sucks. It's the spooky, it's like the Haunting of Hill House type Netflix shows that come out, Hocus Pocus type campy crap. I'm all for it, man. Just give it all to me.
Not me. I'm constantly scared all the time.
That's right. That's my project. That's my project in OBS this next month. Is I'm gonna figure out how, when we do these transitions, have it be like thunder and lightning or some screeching sounds as well. So anyway, thanks again, everyone. And again, just a lot of glowing shout out, Maria, to your demo. Apeksha, thanks so much for joining as well. And with that, we are going to go ahead and sign off. So thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you again next month. Subscribe to the channel if you want to know when this is happening, or follow us on Twitter. Those are the 2 best ways to know. It'll probably be happening around mid-October, so we can make it nice and spooky. So thanks a ton, everyone. We'll see you again